Well, it's a stubborn cuss back to show you something different. Today I'm going to show you how to properly tension the chain on your chainsaw, and also how to sharpen your chain and file down the rakers as well. 2 days ago I was out creating trail with my chainsaw, and had to flush cut a bunch of stumps. Kind of got into the dirt a little bit, just to get the stumps close to the ground. So my chainsaw needs a little touch up. So I got my little chainsaw purse right here with a bunch of tools in there, and I didn't realize it was already open, but here we go. So I got my scrunch, and in here I've got some files, and on this side here I've got some miscellaneous tools, including a raker gauge. So we'll use that. I'll take my little purse made by the Pack Shack if you're interested. A really good little handy toolkit. Set that off to the side. First thing we're going to do before we sharpen the chain is we're going to properly tension the chain. And so to do that, we're going to loosen the bar nuts here. I'm going to take my chain brake off too before I forget. Loosen the bar nuts. And then what we'll do is we'll hold up on the bar, we'll hold tension up. Make sure it's all loose. Okay, we'll hold tension. And you can see how loose that chain is. And now what I'll do is I'll take the screwdriver end of my scrunch. I will turn this just until the bottom of the chain comes in contact with the bottom of the bar. Right there. And that should be perfectly tensioned. And so even though it's a little loose now, when I tighten the back bar nut, it will actually put a little bit more tension on that chain. Now after doing the back one, I do the front one. That's kind of the order of operations there. And now with the chain brake off, I should be able to, without too much effort, pull that chain back and forth. And if I pull up on the chain, I should be able to see 3 full drivers here, drive links. So 1, 2, yeah, just about 3. Anyway, it'll loosen a little bit as it heats up and gets cutting too, so I'd rather have it just a little bit tight. Okay, so leaving my chain brake off, what I do, there's a couple different ways to sharpen. I find the appropriate size round file. This one should be 7/32. I can't read it. It's a little bit rusty, but it should be 7/32. And I sharpen it to about 20 degrees. And there's actually I don't know, you probably can't see it. No, you can't. But on the top of the chain, there's a line, a guideline, which you can follow that to get your right angle. If you don't feel comfortable with that, you can put your round file in a gauge. And this one's so corroded you can't see the marks, but there's angle marks on here. And if you hold those angle marks parallel with the bar, you'll get the right angle on your tooth. I freehand it. I used to use a guide, and then after a while I don't know, I suppose I just got to the point of where I can just do it by feel now. So what I do is I find my dullest tooth, you know, the one that hit the rock the hardest, and I'll start with that one. I'll take that one down until it's sharp. So if it's 5 strokes, if it's 10 or 20 strokes, whatever it takes to get it until that tooth is sharp. And then you got to do the same number of strokes for each tooth. That way, because the teeth are kind of angled backwards, angled downhill. So if I take one way down and take the next one not as far down, which tooth is going to do the cutting? It's going to be the one that's not as far down. So basically you're not utilizing your entire chain. So you take the same number of strokes for every tooth. And this one just really needs a touch up. So what I would do for that is like 5 strokes on each tooth. And you can wear gloves if you want. I don't. I also don't make a habit of doing stupid things with my hands because I don't like to cut them. So anyway, so just like that, just even pressure. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I can see the tooth's real nice and shiny. The corner of the tooth is what does all the cutting. It's not so much the top edge or the side edge, it's that corner. So if that corner is not sharp, your tooth's not gonna cut. So file it back until that corner is sharp. And I do all of them on one side of the chain. 2, 3, 4, 5. You can take a marker and mark the tooth that you start with. You know, take a black Sharpie. Otherwise, you should be able to see, you know, the shininess of the newly filed tooth, and that would be where you stop. And so I do all of them on one side, and then I flip the saw around, and then I'll do all of them from the next side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And so I am left-handed, and I actually recognize that I file more neatly on the left side than I do on the right side. So I have to pay a little more attention to the ones that are on the right side. A lot of people will file correctly with their dominant hand, and then the angle will change, or the amount of pressure will change on their less dominant hand, and the saw will cut sideways. So after I've filed all the teeth, usually about every third sharpening, I'll take the rakers down, which the rakers, move my saw here, are these right here. So these are your cutting teeth, these are your rakers. What the rakers do is they pull the wood chip out of the saw curve. If your rakers are too high, they're going to come into contact with the wood before your tooth will, and kind of just burn the way through the wood. If your rakers are too low, your teeth will bite too aggressively, and it'll kind of be just herky-jerky cutting, and it'll kind of pull you into the tree. So there's a couple ways to do it. One is to put a depth gauge on here, and you basically just file that raker down until your file comes into contact with the depth gauge. The depth gauge is made of a lot harder steel than the raker is, so as you file down, you'll hit that depth gauge and you just won't be able to file anymore. And I can tell that I haven't taken these down in a while because it's taken a lot to get down to that gauge. Another way to do it, if you don't have a depth gauge, is basically just every third sharpening, just take a few strokes off of each raker. And just like the teeth, so there's 5 strokes, just like the teeth, do all of one side, flip your saw around, and then do all of the other side. And that's just kind of a quick and dirty of tensioning your chain on a steel chainsaw, and also sharpening and filing rakers. So, all right, happy cutting.